Hey everyone, we are live for the live stream. I'm going to give everyone a few moments to get started on this. This should be a fun one. So I'm sure everyone could use a little break, and it's just a random topic to talk about. So we're going to be talking with the EMF guy, Nick Pineault, and we're going to have a good conversation. Several months back, I did a video well, actually, let me give you a little history on my dealings with kind of EMF and that in general. For prepping, I like putting things in a Faraday. We have Faraday cages, and then there's Faraday bags. And I did a video on the Mission Darkness Faraday bag where I was putting my phone in there to take it off grid because I didn't like a lot of the tracking and stuff that was going on. And so that's when I started kind of getting into it. And as part of my research, I researched, what these bags do. And one of them is EMF. And that was kind of a subject matter that I wasn't too familiar with. So I decided I'm going to do some testing with this Faraday bag. And so I bought a little smog meter to the coronet that measures EMF readings, and that's an electromagnetic field. So I just made a video several months back where I'm just walking around town and measuring things with the EMF meter. And it was probably one of my more controversial videos because I figured out that EMF is kind of a controversial topic for a lot of people. There's people that are very they're curious like me. Oh, I wonder what this is. Let me go test it out. And then there's other people that, hey, this is non-ionizing radiation. The science has already settled. It's proven, and they get pretty mad about it. The one that they reference the most is the IEEE C95.1, which is the IEEE standard for safety levels with respect to human exposure and electromagnetic fields from 0 hertz to 300 gigahertz. And that's usually the one that's referenced. And then there's a lot of things with regard to something called SAR, which is the specific absorption rate. And so after that video, and it was probably the second most controversial video I've ever done, shortly behind that when I had the Trump comedian come on. So then I decided to do some research. So I picked up this book called the Non-Tinfoil Guide to EMFs. And I thought it was an awesome book. It was really well recommended. And it was super, it was like a very laid back. It felt like it's pretty funny. There's a lot of funny stuff in here and jokes. And so I just took a stab and reached out to the author, Nick Pineault, and said, hey, do you want to come on the live stream? And I got in contact with his people, and then we were able to schedule this. This has been something months in the making. So I was just going to give you a quick, so I have a lot of information right now on Nick's background. Let me put it over here. So we have the website that he has there. You could go to, Nick is known as the EMF Guy. And he has a YouTube channel that we see over here with a lot of good videos. Also on Instagram, and then he also has some courses that he's been doing too. So I'm super excited to talk to him. I thought since a lot of you might not be familiar with Nick, I could just play one of his videos, and we could kind of just show you kind of the stuff that he's into. So there's this one that I really liked where he likes reducing kind of the exposure level, and so this was a video that he did in the car. Let me just play it really quick for you.
Hey, what's up? This is Nick, the EMF guy Pineault, and I want to record a very quick video. I'm not driving, don't worry about it, I'm the passenger seat. I'll record a quick video today for you guys to show you how to use your phone as a GPS and find your way around the city, but minus the radiation. So here's the iPhone 7 that we're using, and as you can see in the corner right here, it says 3G. So currently it's connected to the cellular network, and something that happens in the car is that you're in a very enclosed space. So it's really not an ideal place to have radiation because it bounces around pretty much like inside a microwave. So what you can do is that once you have inputted your destination, we're going to IKEA right now, it already remembers the destination, and then you can put it on airplane mode because the GPS chip, hold on, let me click here. That's it. The GPS chip is separate from the network, from the cellular data, and from the Wi-Fi and from the Bluetooth. This is a different antenna. So what does it mean? It means that we can go around and that the GPS will still find a way. See that we're just turning around the corner, and you'll see the phone still updating our position even if we're on airplane mode. So it means that you can do that. So first input your destination, and second you turn airplane mode back on, and you can do this as a pedestrian too. So that's it, guys. This is as simple as it gets. You can do that from what I know on any phone right now. So it's really a trick that it's just a habit, right? You input the destination, you put it back on airplane mode, and then you still use it as a GPS. And my sense of orientation is horrible. So trust me, I use that all the time. All right, see you guys next time. Bye.
All right, so that was Nick. So without further ado, let's bring on Nick. Welcome, Nick, to the live stream.
Hey, thanks for having me, Cliff. Actually, it was funny. I haven't done these videos in a while, and actually next year, 2021, I'm gonna start doing them again because I just love this very simple tips, and people appreciated that so much. But I've been so busy in the last year and a half, kind of developing courses, and now I realized that I need to get back on video. I really love it.
Yeah, I really like that video. It's a super little simple trick, and anyone could really do it. I really like that. So yeah, it'd be cool if you're doing more YouTube videos. I know that you're doing a lot of things. I seem to have a very busy schedule. So I'm trying to figure out how do we get going into all of this. So
well, I know there's controversy. You mentioned before the interview, some people, it's as if it's a topic you can either be a believer or a non-believer, but it's a scientific topic, so that's a little bit weird. In reality, in the world of EMFs, there's a lot of controversy among scientists. Among psychologists would say, a lot of psychologists say people who claim to be electrosensitive, for example, to get sickened by a cell tower or a cell phone, it's all psychological. And then you would have people in medicine like Dominique Belpom. He's a French physician and researcher, and he says, no, in fact, I can diagnose electrical sensitivity, and I have proof of this. So it's a little bit bizarre. We're in this state where our global exposure to that electro-pollution, and that's really how I call it now, because people know that air pollution is a problem. That if you're in a very high smog area, it's just horrible for your health. Even in a very short time, I went to Thailand, and it was during the burning season with my kid and my wife, and we got almost both of them got sick within 3 weeks because the air quality is so horrid at this time of the year. So we know the impacts are there, and sometimes you don't even see it. You just see in the horizon kind of a little smog, but it's all these chemicals going in the lungs. Definitely not good. A lot of people believe that electro-smog or electro-pollution doesn't do anything, and this is the main reason that it's increasing so fast. It's that our safety guidelines permit basically for telecom companies to do whatever they like. Install these antennas as long as you're not burning people with so much microwave signal, everything will be fine. So that's how permissive our safety guidelines are, especially in North America. Canada and US are among the highest permissiveness levels, if you will, in the world when it comes to these emissions.
Yeah, and I remember in your book, I think you mentioned about how the safety standards haven't been updated since '96. Is that still true?
That's still true, and that's based on science from the 80s. So it's based on a handful of rat studies. Really, when you find the origins of that, it's a little bit scary because there's not a lot of good science that shows why did we decide what is the safety threshold. And basically what happened is that they looked at a thermal increase in the brain, or the equivalent of a thermal increase in the human brain of 1 degree Celsius. And they said, okay, that's the maximum we'll allow, but this is a thermal effect. So in other words, what they looked at is obviously when you put water in a microwave or food in a microwave oven, you're using extremely high powers. A lot of them use 1,000 watts or even 1,500 watts. As a comparison, your cell phone can use 1 to 3 watts, for example. I don't know the exact number of new phones. Is getting a little bit worse with time because, of course, cell phones need to connect harder and harder, and the manufacturers push that technology to the maximum. But the idea is that, of course, your cell phone cannot burn you, or even there's been these videos around cooking an egg and things like that. These are hoaxes that really add to the confusion around the topic. So it's not that your cell phone is going to burn you. They're looking at, of course, they want to avoid tissue damage where you would literally burn, I don't know, your cheek or something. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the biological effects. So since the human body is a bioelectrical machine, and that's the part where a lot of people get on board with, and I know a lot of people listening to that will be nodding their heads like, yes, okay, we're bioelectrical. We can detect magnetic fields being emitted by the human heart up to several feet. We know that. We know that you can measure brain waves outside the head. So we're kind of emitting brain waves, right? We know that our cells have a voltage gradient inside the cell membrane, and that it needs to be kept to a certain level of electricity, or else the cell becomes sick. So we know that all these electrical parts are inside the human body. That's a very, very complicated machine with trillions of bacteria on top of it, trillions of viruses and whatnot. So it's a very complicated machinery that uses electricity, and sometimes minute amounts of electricity. And somehow, at one point in history, we've decided to just blow out electricity in the air everywhere, which is our use of electro-pollution, especially from cell towers, but also from handheld devices or Wi-Fi and smart meters, Bluetooth thingies, and a lot of Bluetooth headphones, of course, these days. And somehow the science didn't catch up looking at, okay, well, what is the interference between these electrical signals and the electrical signals that are innate to the human body? And this is what I'm referring to. So it's not about heating or not heating, and that's the SAR, right? The specific absorption rate of your cell phone. A lot of people ask me, Nick, well, what is the best cell phone and the ones with lower radiation? Sure, you can find some with a lower SAR, but it just tells you about basically nothing, to be honest. It tells you about the standard that is deprecated in itself. So what we should be looking at, and that's, we have literally, I think it's now around 350 EMF scientists that are independent, and they're doing their work not because they're in it for the telecoms or they don't have these corporate interests, right? So that's important to keep in mind in every topic when you look at the science. And and I'm sure that your listeners are well aware that when you look at certain topics, well, the science becomes distorted, kind of following the money trail. And that's not a big conspiracy. It is a big industry. The telecom industry is stronger than big pharma around the world when it comes to how much revenue they can generate. So they kind of twist the arms of scientists and say, well, that's not the results we want. And they try to publish what will support the idea that EMFs do nothing. When you ask independent scientists, the reality is that most of them, the vast majority of EMF scientists that are independent, oppose the rollout of 5G, which is the latest generation of signals, because what they say is this: we have some indications that it might be a carcinogen, and that's from 2011. WHO declared it's a class 2B carcinogen, so we don't know, right? It's a possible carcinogen. The same researchers that were on that committee in 2011 looked at the science that came out 2011 to 2020, and they said, oh my God, it's actually reinforcing the idea that this radio frequency radiation, that's the range of cell phones and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, it should be upgraded to a probable carcinogen or even a known carcinogen. If it ends up being a known carcinogen, and that will require a few years of meeting and convening a meeting with scientists, and then seeing, hopefully crossing fingers, that the industry doesn't put lobbying pressure in there to kind of whoa, and we don't want that to happen. Well, if this independent science looks at it, we probably have an agent that is a probable carcinogen, and everyone's is using it 24/7. And that's the main reason that scientists are saying, what they're not saying is EMFs are killing us, everyone will be dead tomorrow. So these extremes, you hear that sometimes on the internet, and yes, some people are getting sickened. I personally believe that this is the percentage of individuals that do have more sensitivity, just like you have people that are more prone to viral infections or anything, really. So you have certain people with certain genetic profiles or health levels that cannot handle certain toxins, like even certain pesticides. So it's the same idea. But what they're saying is we should follow what's called the precautionary principle, which states that we shouldn't wait until we have scientific certainty on a topic that's potentially harming the entire population, right? Because in the end, everyone is exposed, and we cannot even find a control group that's unexposed to test their health versus the health of the population. And the second thing I have to mention is that, well, the population's health is not good in the Western world. We have all these chronic issues, autoimmunity, obesity, we have diabetes, Alzheimer's, and all these conditions. Well, a lot of researchers agree that it's not genetics, because if it were genetic, why is it happening to just our generation and our kids? Everyone's getting sick. So what's happening? And researchers are just saying, well, these factors are outside, they're environmental, and then it's a big black box. We don't know if it's pesticides, is it stress, air pollution, is it EMFs, right? So I think it's part of all the stressors we have in our modern lives. The problem when it comes to EMFs is that, yes, we know air pollution is bad. Most people wouldn't drink pesticides, at least. Like, they would maybe say, oh, I don't think they're that dangerous. Or some other people would say, well, you know what, I'd rather avoid them when I do my own gardening and whatnot, because why would you use them? Maybe I'm going to use some other techniques to grow my food. So they're kind of prudent about it. But the same people wouldn't be prudent about their cell phone. And that's the main issue. You have the scientists sounding the alarm. Society is moving the opposite direction, like more and more and more wireless. And then in between, you have people kind of waiting, okay, well, is it going to be bad? Is it going to be okay? And my approach as and why some people started calling me actually the EMF guy. It's not something I just invented. After my book, I just started posting these videos, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the EMF guy, like the dude who always talks about EMFs. And I'm like, well, maybe that's my topic. And I felt very passionate about at least telling people to be prudent. And it means you can minimize your exposure. Just like in the car, that car example was perfect, because yes, you can use your GPS, but then you cut down on exposure 99.9%, because you don't need to keep your phone on and radiating in the car all the time. The same can be said with simple things like Wi-Fi. A lot of people don't use it in the middle of the night, so you can simply turn it off before you go to bed, and then you have less exposure. So I'm in the middle of this scientific uncertainty, and I would err on the side of caution, kind of minimizing your exposure and not starting to increase it the way a lot of people are doing in their home with like smart homes and everything wireless, right?
Yeah. I know in the book, I think you mentioned it. There's that TV show Better Call Saul with a guy with the Mylar blanket on it, and I think a lot of people they kind of equate that to that. You're mentioning a little bit about the body kind of being an electrical unit almost, and I know that the whole topic of voltage gated calcium channels is one that's I think I heard from Dr. Martin Paul as the one that I heard from that. So is that in relation to what you're talking about there?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a few researchers that have been trying to ask themselves a question. Let's talk about non-ionizing and ionizing for a second. I know it's a big question.
About that, yeah.
It's a perfect tie-in.
Yeah.
There's the EMF spectrum, right? The EMF spectrum is not, EMFs is a bit of a misnomer. So that's why I prefer electro-pollution. It shows you that there's a polluting agent and that it's electrical in its nature. I think it's just a little bit more understandable. But EMFs is electromagnetic fields. And it's an entire spectrum that goes from 0 hertz as a frequency to, well, if you go to 50, 60 hertz, that's household electricity, pretty low on an EMF frequency standpoint, and then you go higher and higher and higher, and eventually you have cell phone signals around 1 gigahertz to 3 gigahertz. You have Wi-Fi 2 to, let's say, 6 gigahertz, and then eventually you have 5G, and that's the controversy this year. 5G will go even higher, up to almost, in certain situations, 90 gigahertz. Mm-hmm. But then people say, well, how come light doesn't hurt us? Because all of this radiation is non-ionizing, so it cannot directly break your DNA, and that's thought as the main mechanism of damage for nuclear radiation, which is at the end of the spectrum in super high frequencies. Mm-hmm. And they say, well, visible light, for example, the visible light spectrum starts in the 400,000 gigahertz. So Wi-Fi is 6. 5G goes to 90, and then visible light, I'm getting blasted with 400,000 gigahertz. So of course, light is not damaging my body, right? So it's not ionization that we're looking at. Of course, when it comes to X-rays, for example, when it comes to nuclear radiation, that's a concern, because we know it will break the bonds, molecular bonds, and it will create damage that way. What a lot of people don't realize, and that's something I realized in the last few years, and that's from Dr. Joseph Mercola. He sent me that paper, and researchers have been looking even years after of course, it's well known that nuclear radiation can sicken people and kill them, sometimes nearly instantly. The main mechanism of damage from nuclear particles, if we take uranium or whatever, there's a nuclear bomb, it's actually not DNA damage the way we think. It's not ionization. Ionization happens very quickly, and that does part of the damage. But if you read scientific paper, what they say is that after that, there's a delay of a few, I think it's picoseconds. It happens right after, right? Very rapidly. There's a release of this peroxynitrite and other nitrogen species that are molecules that will travel from one cell to another and damage the nucleus. And this is what destroys your cells from the inside out, when it's really an entire storm of this almost destructive agent. Peroxynitrite in the body, you can have the right amount, and it's actually a signaling molecule, but when it's in too great amounts, it can literally destroy cells, and that's where you get people bleeding from the inside. And the extreme examples of this is the peroxynitrite storm in people that have nuclear radiation poison. So the same mechanism has nothing to do with ionization. It has to do with peroxynitrite and these things being released. And Dr. Martin Pall from the Washington State University looked at, okay, how is it possible that a non-ionizing signal like microwave radiation could damage the human body? Because in the end, it's not directly causing DNA damage. And what was bizarre is that still in animal studies, they found DNA damage. And in vitro, when they look at just cell studies, they found DNA damage. And they were like, well, how is it possible that there's DNA damage and technically it shouldn't happen, or it's almost impossible? Well, it's another mechanism, and it has to do with a part of the cell called the VGCCs, and that's the voltage-gated calcium channels. So in other words, you have a minute electrical signal it could be household electricity, it could be microwave, and it can keep these calcium channels open for too long in an artificial manner, which creates too much calcium inside the cell. On a cell standpoint, you should have very high calcium levels outside the cell and very little inside. There's a gradient that needs to be respected. If it's not respected, it creates stress on a cellular level, and the downside effect of that is the creation of too much peroxynitrite. So in other words, what he said is, to a certain degree, we can have part of the same damage we would see with nuclear radiation, but to a lesser extent. Of course, people are not dropping dead in a week or anything like that. It is over time, you have an overcreation of peroxynitrite. And what this does in the body, it's a lot of inflammation, it's stress. And he linked it with a lot of symptoms that people say, well, it's bizarre. I turned off my cell phone and I sleep better. I turned off my cell phone and I don't have blood sugar regulation issues. And it turns out that, yes, it can be linked back to that. And it's still a theory. It's still being developed. What is the main mechanism? But it is plausible. And then when you look at doctors who actually believe this is an issue, well, they tell their patients, why don't you turn off Wi-Fi at night? Why don't you start sleeping with your cell phone under the pillow while it's plugged into the wall, kind of buzzing all around you? And people report a change in their symptoms. And sometimes it's not something, we're not looking for something dramatic. And my work is not about changing your life, your entire health, because you turn off your cell phone at night. But sometimes I would say most people who don't think they have any degree of sensitivity, and even skeptics, report feeling better, or just feeling calmer in general. But the main thing that happens is better sleep. Like they feel like they're sleeping in a normal environment. And this is really what it is all about. 100 years ago, we were not exposed to these signals. And some people say, yes, we've always been exposed to these frequencies through space and whatnot. Yeah. And that's true. However, at what levels of intensity? And that's my question for skeptics. And the answer is, we're exposed to a quintillion times more radiation in the 1 gigahertz range compared to 1950s or 1920s, 100 years ago. So a quintillion times is a billion times, by the way. So it's a large increase. Our biology was not accustomed or not designed to be exposed to these intensity levels and also this chaos around us, because of course we're not exposed to one tower. I'm exposed here in Montreal to, I don't know, honestly, don't want to think about it too much, probably 20 towers,
Yeah.
1,000 Wi-Fi routers, I don't know, 1 million Bluetooth devices in that city, like easily. So this is what happens. It's really the multiplication. And then what is on the bright side is that, just like I say in the book, is that, well, the devices that you have on your body, your cell phone is in your pocket, or maybe your cell phone, you're talking right next to the face. Well, if you create distance with these different things, you're dropping off the problem by a whole lot. So it's not the message is not about eliminating technology entirely. And I know, and probably, I mean, if I were prepping myself, I would want technology to be able to communicate, right? Or I don't know, like different ways of having sensors and whatnot. So it's not about eliminating all these things. It's about minimizing your exposure and erring on the safe side, basically.
Yeah, I think that's what I've been trying to lean towards, because I'm still kind of researching it, and it's really awesome that you're able to provide these details in it. I'm kind of treating it, I mentioned in the video that I'm treating it kind of like secondhand smoke, maybe in the 1970s, where I just want to minimize. I don't want to have it in the airplanes and stuff like that. So ever since, and everyone that's watching the live stream, I know there's a lot of comments going there, and we're going to get to those comments too. This is the book from Nick. This is the Non-Tinfoil Guide to EMFs, and I have a link in the description box if you want to pick it up. And there's a lot of good information on here that kind of makes you think. But ever since reading this book, I've tried to have my distance, just get my distance away from things. So like even right now, the laptop I have is a fair amount of distance away than what it used to be. And I did that in the particular video with the smog meter too. And you really, because it follows inverse square law from my understanding. So, the farther you get away from it, it's not like it's just having it. It's, by fourths, basically. So this is all good stuff. So, and the thing that I've had a problem with is like turning off the phone at night and not sleeping with a phone right by your head. In my video, I had this thing up to the Wi-Fi router, and you could just see it just going off over there. And I wouldn't want to sleep on a Wi-Fi router either. So I try to keep all that stuff away, but I think all that's really great. I mean, it doesn't hurt to turn off the Wi-Fi when you're sleeping, and for sure, at least in the bedroom, so for having
it's a nice test, and especially in the bedroom. And going with last week and this summer, I've launched a course with Brian Hoyer. Brian has been featured on Dr. Mercola, and he's been an advisor to the top functional medicine doctors in North America. And he's been lately to the only functional medicine hospital in the world, Sanoviv in Mexico. And he's doing some of his work there, and his specialty is shielding entire rooms. And that's an extreme action step that you could take if you're exposed to cell phone towers and really want a zero electrosmog environment. That's not necessary, but it helps. And Brian is my co-teacher on that course. And that course is about teaching, what are the simple action steps you can take. And what we say is, if there's one place you should minimize your exposure, it is in the bedroom, because it really looks, and that's really corroborated in a lot of studies, and that's the idea that also EMF scientists talk about constantly, is that at night your body is more prone to being disrupted by these EMFs. And that's likely because EMFs provide some kind of stimulation that could be akin to blue light. And I don't know do you talk about a little bit about lighting choices, or because I know it's becoming mainstream that.
I was going to say on my phone with the whole blue light thing, that as I was researching all these kind of EMF type stuff, I stumbled upon the blue light thing. And I know I have my phone, there's an app that I have on my phone that after 10 p.m. it switches to more of a red light. Then
there you go.
It helps you sleep, from my understanding.
Exactly. And you know what's bizarre, Cliff? Is this radiation, I'm talking about blue light here, is it ionizing?
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
So it is not. And yet we know now that visible light, let's take red light therapy, 10,000, maybe 20,000 studies now on showing the healing effects of infrared and red light therapy. And yet non-ionizing, still biological effects. Blue light, excessive blue light at night, we know it's linked with cancer. We know that shift work since last year May 2019, shift work, including circadian disruption. So the mere fact of living at night and sleeping during the day is a class 2A carcinogen at WHO now, because they realize that circadian rhythm is so key to having normal health, and we're not nocturnal creatures, unfortunately. Some people would love that, especially those who want to sleep very late and wake up very late. But the reality is that most people would rather be healthier if they really slept during the night. And so we know that blue light impacts us. In fact, in optometry now, it is a scientific proven fact that they offer blue light blocking, they block certain frequencies of blue light, and even in the UV or purple spectrum, to basically slow down how much it will accelerate the degeneration of your eyes. So we know that all of these frequencies I've just told you about in the last 2 minutes, they're all non-ionizing, and we know there are effects. So if blue light impacts your sleep, well, maybe invisible light, if we want to call it that, which is microwave radiation, could impact your sleep too. So it's not that much of a stretch. I think that all these frequencies that are artificial to the human body can impact us, and that if we were our ancestors, well, the only light we would be exposed to at night would be fire, basically. And fire has a very orange glow, and it doesn't stimulate you. So this is the idea that we want to follow here. If you're putting wireless devices in your bedroom, or your phone is connected on the 4G or 5G network at night, and ding, 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 downloading these messages, it is essentially stimulating you and just preventing you from calming down and having just regular sleep.
Yeah, I know when I'm camping that's I get the best sleep when I'm camping, because I'm usually outside of any kind of cellular signal. Part of it I thought it's like the air, but I like how you kind of think of it as far as electrosmog. So part of that I imagine is probably not having the phones and not having all the Wi-Fi and all that stuff is really
it
helpful.
is probably connection to nature too. Yeah. A lot of people report that. And one of the even functional medicine doctors who will diagnose electrosensitivity, what they or even, I mean, to some extent, this sensitivity to modern life. If you go camping and your health really, really goes up and up and up, and you're like, oh my God, I feel amazing. You go back home and it's something in your environment back home that doesn't do it. Sometimes it's your job, to be honest. Sometimes it's modern life, traffic, but it might be air quality inside your house. It might be what you're eating, right? Or what you are eating differently. It might be connection to nature that you lack, or maybe just you're relaxing and camping. But also electro-pollution is also part of that whole black box to consider and to elucidate for you, and the goal being find what makes you feel best, really.
Yeah, and from the whole electrosmog thing, from my understanding, it's not that it's just the concern with 5G, but we still have 4G, we still have 3G, we have these Wi-Fi, we have all these other things, and it's a combination of all of that wasn't around 150 years ago.
That's correct. And this is something a lot of people kind of came into this world this year because of 5G and the controversy, and then I will not even go into the controversy this year with 5G and the most important event of the year, and kind of the link between a certain respiratory thing. I don't even go into these links. For example, for honestly, I think it's been overblown in the sense that, yes, I'm concerned about 5G personally, because it's more of a bad thing. It's like, I don't know, imagine you're in a world in the 1950s and you're the only guy that realizes that secondhand smoke is probably not good for you. And you have the science that proves it, and you're like, oh my God, it's dangerous. And then they announce that everyone can smoke twice as much on airplanes. And you're like, what, really? That's how I feel at the moment. It's like, well, we can go to 5G and 6G and satellites and all this, but is this really the right direction? As someone who has researched the topic for years, I would say no, it's actually the wrong direction. We should, for example, have more wired technology. They're faster, they're more secure, they're more private. You have fiber optic to the home, super fast internet, everything is wired in. If you need occasional Wi-Fi, it can be something occasional. But at the moment, it's kind of everyone's binging on this wireless because it's just the click of a button. It's super easy.
Yeah, before the live stream started, I was like, I wonder if he's going to wear wired headphones or if he's going to have some AirPods, because I'm hoping he has wired. So I happened to notice that.
Definitely.
I see there's a lot of comments in the comment section. I was hoping we could get to some of those, because I
Sure.
know people have their questions. I had some questions too, just maybe I could kickstart it. As far as, what are your thoughts on a lot of these kind of devices, like these ones that go on the back of your phone for EMF? I kind of feel like it's almost like snake oil in a way. There's also stuff like the Q link, which I mean, again, I buy all this stuff because I want to do testing, and then I make a decision on it. What are your thoughts on all those kind of things?
It's a gray area in EMF science. I'm actually, it's funny because I probably have a meeting in the next 2 weeks with a very prestigious EMF scientist to kind of get a project started to test these devices. The problem we have at the moment is, as you know, I heard about almost 100 different devices like this, like chips you put on your cell phone. And what they claim is not necessarily that the EMFs are gone. And if you go with a cornet or with a tester, they're not gone. It doesn't change the levels, right? So they say, well, it will change the waveform or something subtle on the wave itself, which will make maybe your VGCCs or your cells go, well, okay, everything is fine now. The problem is that it's not really proven to the level of certainty where all EMF scientists just stop complaining about EMFs. They go in the streets, they rejoice, and they say, wow, we fixed the entire topic. There's no problem because everyone has their chips on their phones. It didn't happen, right? So what's happening is that some people feel better when they're installed, and I think some have merits to them, and some function through different resonance frequencies, and I'm not too sure. Maybe it does change some signal characteristics. For example, maybe the waveform of the EMFs in your area might become a little bit more smooth compared to erratic. I don't know exactly what the mechanisms are, and there are serious engineers looking at these technologies, but I don't think they should claim 100% protection, and that's my pet peeve with them is, well, really 100% protection tells the users that they can talk on their cell phone all day, every day and be fine. We simply don't know that. In the meantime, more and more studies are showing that if you talk on your phone every day for hours, you're at risk to develop what is considered the one of the most deadly cancers known to mankind, which is glioblastomas. You don't want to develop that. You don't want to develop a cancer of the head. No one wants that, even if it's acoustic neuromas that can lead to complications. And this is the main science that is kind of making scientists freak out about the entire topic, or be extremely concerned, is the development of these deadly cancers. Of course, it's not all users, but if it's you, oops, it's not a gamble most people would be willing to take. So that's why saying that a chip can protect you is kind of a little bit tricky topic. So at the same time, I don't want to discount them. What I tell people, and what Brian and I have been telling to our course members, is, you can use them, but still do the basics, like reduce your exposure, yes, but if you want to wear the Q-Link and you feel better, well, chances are I think some pendants and some things like that can be supportive of good health in general. Are they an EMF protector? Personally, I think it's a stretch. Some people would not agree with me, but I think that I think it's fair to say that most EMF scientists would agree with me on that, where they want to see more science, they wanted to see more very credible and well-designed studies that would tell us, yes, you're 100% protected. At the moment, we're just not seeing that.
Awesome. Cool. Let's start going through some of the questions here. There's a lot of ones here. I'll start off with Randall. It looks like Randall has, I have high power lines run through a small portion of my ranch. So is it safe to have workers or my cattle stay under the high power electrical lines? That's from Randall.
Well, in the case of high voltage power lines, it's funny because the main controversy around that was by Hydro-Quebec here in Quebec and in the countryside, right next to Montreal, where people complained of health effects, even childhood leukemia, because they were living right underneath those high voltage power lines, like the very, very tall ones. And Hydro-Quebec didn't want to move them because, of course, it's like millions and millions in cost, and cutting off the electricity, moving everything. It's huge works. And the science was never settled. In the end, it's magnetic fields that it emits when you're near them and at a very large distance. If you stay in them 24/7, I would say that's probably an issue. There are some studies, the strongest studies that have been done around these magnetic fields is for childhood leukemia, more risks if you live very close to these power lines, or problem bringing a pregnancy to term. So problems with pregnancy of all types. And it's probably just because when the fetus attaches, is very, very fragile to outside electrical environment. I don't know exactly what the mechanisms are, but if cattle stay there or workers stay there from time to time, I don't think it's that much of an issue, but it's really time of exposure that is the main issue. You know, if you talk on your cell phone 3 minutes here and there, I wouldn't personally, some activists or some other voices in EMF space would be more extreme in their stance, but I like to give people some freedom to say, well, what do you consider safe? Like after reviewing the science and whatnot. So if you use it sparingly, I think it's okay as long as you aim to reduce your exposure. So it's hard to answer because I don't know. Like you would have, if you're really concerned, you could take readings. You could have a building biology professional or someone like Brian Hoyer, who's an EMF mitigation specialist, come to your home. But it's a complicated issue. But if it's from time to time, I wouldn't worry about it. If your workers complain of health issues all the time, and it turns out they spend all their day under the power line, then maybe do a test and have them work somewhere else and see that does it, like, do your own experiment, because yes, it could impact people.
Yeah, with my phone, I especially after reading the book too, I try to use the headset a lot more so I could have the phone away from me.
That's a very nice technique. Yeah.
I saw there's a funny comment here from Dropforge Survival. This one says, "I almost thought this was about Ghost." The Wi-Fi phones are pretty. Did you? Are you into any kind of ghost type stuff, or do you get a lot of comments about that?
Sometimes I make the joke like, yeah, people think I do ghost hunting or something, because in these shows they use certain times they even use stuff like cornet. They look at different fluctuations in the electromagnetic spectrum, and it could mean the indication that there's a ghost. I don't know exactly what they're looking for, but they're looking for fluctuations, sometimes even fluctuations in like the invisible light spectrum. They look at like I don't know, like infrared lamp or detector and whatnot. So yeah, that I get that a lot, but it has nothing to do with that.
This is from Zara. Pretty interesting about the virus that shall not be named causes oxidative stress. So that's interesting. I know that you didn't want to cover that one,
but that's all right. Well, I don't want to get your channel into trouble.
Yeah,
I know
the AI comes after me.
Yeah, well, exactly. What I can mention is that Dr. Magda Havas, she's from Ontario, Canada, and she's a very well respected EMF scientist. She said, well, about this entire, she got that question. I was in a course for EMF. It was a very advanced course for health practitioners that they put together last month. And she said, yes, I'm going to address the link. It was a Q&A answer session, and of course it's very controversial this year. Everyone was kind of, okay, what is she gonna tell? She said, yes, there's a correlation in the sense that for her, EMFs will probably or very likely reduce the capacity of the immune system to fight anything. So very simply, imagine you sleep better. Do you ward off a pathogen better? Probably. So very logically, if it impacts your entire health, it could impact. Is it causative, where some people advance all sorts of speculative ideas about 5G? I haven't seen this evidence, and I think that it was a little bit of a distraction from the entire topic of electro-pollution, right? Because it's not just about, this is causing that, this is causing that. It's more like something that can make anyone less healthy. And that's more like a general statement. So that's why we should aim to reduce it, whatever the reason is.
Awesome. This is Tanya saying that we're not answering the question. So the question, I don't even know if you could answer this one. This is How do I protect myself from directed energy weapons coming from drones? That's the question from Tanya. That's never getting it. I don't know if you have the answer for that, Nick.
Well, that's a good. Well, okay. First, there are such thing as directed energy weapons. That's not a like I want to say. Yeah, this is serious. There's the active denial system that the U.S. military uses. It's microwave based. It's in fact millimeter wave based, so a little bit in the higher frequencies, and it doesn't directly damage people, but it gives them a burning sensation on the skin. So that's at very high levels, way higher than what cell towers use, or else people would be running in the streets like maniacs. So, of course, there are microwave weapons, and there are some indications that has been used in warfare before. Sometimes with the other country not necessarily knowing that it's happening. The U.S. embassy in Cuba and in Russia have been let's say there's good evidence that they've been attacked by microwave weapon in order to make all the staff inside the embassy sick. And there are good indications that it worked at probably very high levels, right? If these are weapons, it's not necessarily just a Wi-Fi router they're installing, right? It might be way different. If you needed to protect yourself from a direct energy weapon, you would want to be in some sort of Faraday bag or in a room that is shielded. And like you would literally want to be in that wallet that you showed, or to some extent. Clothing could work, but an enclosed space would be better. And that's Brian, for example, from Shielded Healing. He does counseling on like how to shield your room, and part of it is carbon-based paint that will reflect all the frequencies that are from the outside, so the cell towers and whatnot, and maybe a pair of curtains to block out the window. So sometimes it's film, also transparent film, a little bit more expensive, but it can be done. So I don't know in what circumstances, Tanya, you're asking this, but I would put myself in a shielded room. Quite simply. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, that's awesome. This is from Go More Hike. I feel the urge to grow a beard and wear glasses now. that's Go More Hike. We think that you should grow a beard and wear glasses.
And the easiest way I've found to grow a beard is just to wait and do nothing. So it's pretty easy. Yeah.
This is from Dave Martin. This is should the router be turned off and not just the devices?
Well, both. You know, the devices. If you can turn anything off when you don't use them, it's preferable. Some people are at home, and a lot of people work from home since this year with the pandemic and everything. If you're at home and you don't use Wi-Fi, maybe you don't use Wi-Fi your entire afternoon, you could keep it off. That's something, of course, you'll have to turn it back on. Then you wait 2 minutes and when is the Wi-Fi coming back? It's a little bit annoying, but if you can manage to do that, fine. What I recommend for the Wi-Fi is a timer. Like these countdown timers you use for the Christmas lights. It's $7.99 on the internet or something ridiculous. Any hardware store has it, and you set it off maybe at midnight until 6 a.m. or something that feels comfortable for your household. And of course, if you do these changes, and that's a little bit tricky, but if your spouse is not listening to this, maybe they're going to think you're crazy. And that's just a fact. Sometimes it causes tension or friction in the household. Well, let everyone know, like, what is the best time I'm going to turn it off? Or if you have your teenage son or daughter that is always up on their cell phone too late, and maybe they're just connected on Wi-Fi, well, you can have a cutoff, like 11 p.m., bang, no signal. So it's also, it could be a tool to just minimize like our addiction to devices too.
That's a great idea. That's I use the timers for other things. I never thought about using it for the Wi-Fi, so that's awesome. If we have a few more minutes, I know I don't want to take up too much of your time, but there's some pretty good questions here. This is from Nicholas. Does any of the studies about blue light show impact when the light is not seen?
Some evidence. When it comes to the blue light, it looks like we have enough light receptors on the skin, and that's not that much of a stretch, considering that our skin is triggered by certain frequencies of UV, and then it creates vitamin D, right? So we know the skin detects certain frequencies in the end. So yes, there's some studies that I don't know what's the volume of these studies or the validity, or if it's been proven or highly validated in the science, but there are some indications that just having your skin exposed to blue light could contribute, for example, to a change in the melatonin hormone.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I'm not sure 100%, but I think it's mainly through the eye, and it makes sense because in the end, well, I don't know if it made that much sense, but our eye is the human camera, so that's what we know impacts the most at the moment.
Cool. The Republic saying, okay, no phones in the bedroom. Yeah, no phones in the bedroom if you can. And if you're going to, there's an app that it takes away the blue light and it kind of has a red tint to it.
That's and just airplane mode in the bedroom is fine. If you need to keep it in the room, and that's a question some people might have in the back of their mind is, well, I have teenage kids. They're going out to a friend's house. If there's something that happens, I want them to be able to phone me. So your airplane mode thing just doesn't work.
You say hi?
Hello.
This is Nick.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear him?
Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay. Sorry. You never know when the daughter's going to come in.
The same thing with my son sometimes.
Yeah. Let's see. So we moved all electronic out of the main living room and the bedrooms. It's good.
That's good. And I just wanted to say, like, if you want a phone to always be present in your home, and no matter if your cell phone is on or not, get a landline if these are still available in your state or country. Get a landline and then do an automatic redirection of your phone whenever it's not reachable. So it will ring at home, right? And
so forwarding of the call then.
Forwarding of the call. Very simple, can be done in the office too. Like some people in their office are always on their cell phone, but right in front of them, they have like a landline they never use. So just redirect, like you enter the office, turn off your phone or airplane mode, and then it starts ringing in front of you. You're going to cut down on exposure and not be exposed always.
Yeah, I think people like the camping stuff too. I heard 24 hours of camping in the forest not only boosts your immune system, but also fixes your body's rhythm.
And part of it is the amount of artificial light you're not exposed to. Yeah. Like you're going to get back to a normal lighting schedule.
Let's see. I need to go camping again before it gets too cold. Yes, go camping and go more hike, grow the beard, and have the glasses, like you mentioned. This is from Go More Hike. 4G already seems fast enough for me. We're doing this live stream on well, no, it's not on 4G. I'm going through the Wi-Fi, but okay.
It's probably on Wi-Fi. But yeah, a lot of people say that, and that's part of the reason when people hear about 5G. They really most people scratch their head. They're like, why do we need that again? Like 4G LTE is super fast. And when you hear there's more radiation, a lot of people wouldn't do that trade-off in reality. So it's more like the industry that wants to to say to people, you need 5G,
Well, part of me wonders, like, I think all these things that are happening in the world, I always just think it comes down to money at the end of it. And maybe maybe they think the 4G towers are really ugly and the 5Gs are a lot smaller. I don't know. But a lot of great comments in here. People seem to, this is from us. Smart guest, Cliff. Well done. Thumbs up, folks. So they're liking the content here. I know we want to get to talking about the course that you have. But maybe I'll do a few more questions over here. If anyone else has additional questions, I probably can't answer them in the way that Nick can. But if you're rewatching this live stream, you didn't happen to watch it live, I'll take a look at the comment section here. This is from Bernie. Let's see, Nick, this is a preparedness channel. What do you have for your EDC, and what would you be carrying every day for EMF protection?
What's EDC? Sorry,
EDC stands, so the concept of everyday carry. So the stuff that you carry in your pocket. So I imagine you carry a phone, but
I carry a phone personally, and I'm not the best example because I have no one reaching me on the phone, and that's people reach me on Facebook or on text messages, but I just take them every now and then. So most of the time I'm on airplane mode, so I carry a cell phone. There are some cases you could use if you want to keep your phone open, like safe sleeve cases or defender shield. I don't know the efficacy of those, and I would still minimize exposure even if you have them in a case, because there's some leakage. It's not a perfect technology. So if you carry your phone basically all day, maybe on a belt holster or just in your pocket, or even some people have it in their shirt pocket near the heart, not necessarily the best idea if it's connected. So at least put it in a case and try to stay on airplane mode. If you can't, I understand. In that case, well, if you're in your car, don't put it on your person, just put it a little bit away. If you're in the office, put it in front of you. on the desk. It's just a bad habit having it right next to your groin. And we know, and this is not even controversial, the link with a reduction in fertility in men is extremely strong, so much that the researchers from very regular universities and mainstream, like Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic, they say, well, men shouldn't wear a phone in their pocket. They shouldn't do that. And they see an improvement in some sort of fertility clinics, a man's ability to conceive. So if this is true fertility, imagine what it could be doing to your testosterone levels. We don't know exactly. There are some medications they might go down, but a lot of men don't like this idea of something playing with their normal hormonal functioning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't have anything fancy aside from that I use.
Okay, cool. So again, we're talking to Nick. I know that this is kind of a controversial topic. I see some comments in here that they don't. Let's see. This is from T. Pure conspiracy promoting shame. What we've expected your channel, but on my channel I like talking and we like researching stuff and we try to do scientific stuff. So if you have questions or if you disagree with stuff, I think it's good to talk. And Nick's been very kind to come over here and talk about both what his thinking is and could try to answer some of these questions. So
yeah, and I want to say, there are a lot of industry people that are also behind this movement of safer technologies. If you ask Frank Clegg, the ex-CEO of Microsoft Canada, he's an engineer, and he doesn't think they're safe at all. And I've been connecting with a lot of engineers that have background in the military, I have some of my collaborators that are ex-NASA. I have collaborators that are nuclear engineers. So it's not just a conspiracy, and very, very smart people are looking at this and finding solutions. Dr. Jan Rutger Schrader from Netherlands has developed a Wi-Fi that turns off automatically whenever there's no devices connected to it. It kind of falls in a sleep mode. That's called the Eco Wi-Fi, ECO Wi-Fi. I have no parts in that company, but I just think he's a genius, and he's an electrical engineer. So it's not just a fringe topic. And when you look at it, when you have engineers who understand both electrical engineering and biology, a lot of them end up finding that yes, we should reduce our exposure, and they create these solutions, right? They create these solutions that are easier. People can install that Eco Wi-Fi at home, and it will just go on sleep mode whenever you have nothing connected. So yeah, it's if you think this is a conspiracy theory, at least read the book, look at some of the science. You could say that the science is insufficient to take action, or you could say that the science is sufficient enough to take action. Saying there's no science, well, that's not scientific. It's just maybe the idea that you have on the topic, and I hope you're going to be able to take a second look.
Yeah, awesome. And I see someone John's requesting sources and links to paper. Maybe after this stream's done, I could sync with you, and I could for people that want to rewatch
Dr. Martin
this.
Paul, I could send you a few resources.
Yeah,
for sure.
and I'll add that to the description. So yeah, so I think a final question. Then I know we have like the course that you have. Let's see. John's wants to check out those. There was one real good one I thought was a pretty fitting one. It was. Let's see. Where's it at? It was like if you had one piece of advice. There it is. This is fine as Amy Fresh. If you could give only one piece of advice on this subject, what would it be? And we'll do that for final question.
It's really to clean out the bathroom. The bathroom. Oh my God!
It says the same thing to me.
No cell phone on the toilet. No, I'm sorry about that. Oh, that was too funny. Perfect way to end the interview. No, in the bedroom. So that's exactly what I told you about. Look in your bedroom and ask yourself, what could be emitting wireless signals? Sometimes people have a Bluetooth alarm clock. They have a cell phone. They have the laptop that's kept open. They have a tablet. Some people have 12 devices in their bedroom, if you count Bluetooth things that could be connected. Try to get as many of these devices either turned off, airplane mode, or outside the bedroom, and see how you feel. It's a simple preventative measure. It's a measure just like reducing the light pollution you have at night while having this software on your phone, or maybe even some people go as far as wearing these orange glasses at night. I'm one of them, but of course I'm the weird EMF guy.
You're the EMF guy. Yeah.
You have these curtains here are kind of very dark because you block the outside light pollution. So these are all good steps just for proper sleep. Exactly. So it's just common sense, but try to get as many of these devices you can out of the bedroom.
Yeah, I think all that doesn't seem like conspiracy stuff to me. I don't.
No, it's not.
We're just kind of living more like it was like in the 1800s, probably, where there wasn't.
Well, exactly.
And it doesn't really hurt anything. And we're not saying to not use your phone or not use the internet and stuff. So awesome. So I know that you have so everyone, this is Nick, the EMF guy. I first learned about Nick through his book. Let me see if I can get this last banner off here really quick. It's hard to multitask. Okay, there we go. So again, Nick's book is called The Tinfoil Guide to EMFs. It's a really entertaining book, and it's all about the subject. And I found it super entertaining. He was kind enough to come on to the live stream to talk with us about the subject. And I think that you have a really nice way of talking about it in a way that's accessible to everyone, and makes people think, and encourages people to do research. And maybe after the research, they're just like, I don't buy all that. And I think that's
fine.
That's cool too. So I know that you have a course that's coming up, and I have a link in the description box where you do kind of a 6-week course on this topic. So, and you can register there. So do you want to maybe give a little talk about that?
For sure. I mean, if people are really, if you're brand new to the topic, you want just a very simple introduction, the book is really the way to go. We have in the right link. What you're seeing on the page is the previous. You do have a link on the stream, right? That is the link.
Yeah. Let me go.
Okay, because basically we're selling a 6-week course that is just a practical course on how to do this stuff, how to minimize from all these sources of electro-pollution in your home. So we do talk about the Wi-Fi router. We talk what to do about a tablet, what to do about your phone, what to do about magnetic fields. There's a lot more technicalities that we couldn't go into in this interview. And our goal is for people who are already convinced, no, this is an issue. I want to minimize my exposure at home. I'd rather be on the safe side and kind of minimize my exposure. It's really a course for you. So it's a simple 6-week course. We have 6 sessions of about an hour, 15 minutes with me and Brian, 2 teachers for the price of one, if you will. And it's $100. So it's $99. And we have registrations that are extended. They just ended yesterday at midnight, and we have a lot of new members on board. The group, the community is going to be very, very, very active. And well, you can just join us if you want. And the course is starting on Monday already, but it's a course that is also recorded, of course. So if you cannot watch it live, if you cannot join these sessions, they're at 7 p.m. EST, well, you just listen to the recordings later, and that's fine too. So that's the course we have, and the feedback has been super.
Yeah, so if you're interested in this topic, and some people I imagine aren't going to be, but some people that might be. So it's a 6-week course. They get for $100. They get to go and listen to a 75-minute course, another 75 minutes. So it's a really deep dive into this topic.
It is. So we go, basically, we do talk about the wireless. We talk about artificial light also in depth. We talk about the terms, the first session on EMF basics. There's a lot of terms that I've even mentioned in this interview: radio frequency, microwave radiation, and 5G. And a lot of people get lost. I still get lost sometimes. So it's really trying to make this entire topic more accessible. And it's way more that I could include in the book. So yeah, it's... Oh, and thank you. Yeah, the book has been well received. Some skeptics in there, of course, in the reviews that say, "Oh, I didn't like his sources," or I did some mistakes in my publishing. It was self-published and it was not perfect. But the course, I'm really proud about the course because it's very, very actionable. And what we talk about also is how to deal or how to convince your family, because it's a huge part of this entire EMF reduction plan is, well, how do you get the husband or the skeptical spouse on board and your children? And we have some strategies for that and how to talk about EMFs. And so it's really an applied course. it is not a course, like it doesn't get into as much science as the book. The book kind of reviews what is the scientific fact and all this. The course is about how to do it. So it's a very, very practical course. And if it's a good fit, just join us. If not, it's going to be available 2021. We're trying to come up with a different pre-recorded version, so it's still a work in progress, and we're very happy about what we've created together with Brian.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so 6 75-minute courses. That's for over multiple weeks. I think that's really cool. So if you're interested in this top subject, we've provided Nick, an expert in it, and I was going to bring on Bernie. He had a really good commentary. I love when guests, Nick is a great example, when they can quickly answer a question and back it up with research. So it's not just their own thoughts, but there's also credible sources. So I think that's probably a good closing comment.
Thank you.
Bernie's been over here controlling everything behind the scenes. So
yeah,
great final question, Bernie.
Well, it really wasn't
a comment.
Question, a comment than anything. But yeah, no, it was actually, it was not as the comments were not as bad or controversial as what I was expecting. So that just goes to show that, Nick. Yeah, like I said in my last comment, I mean, your sources were great. You're quick to answer. I loved it, man. It was great. It was a lot of very good information. Yeah, and I will be getting your book.
Awesome. Well, that's a great introduction. And to anyone, the course is really for people that are already convinced, I want to take action. If you're kind of dipping your toe in the topic, the book is great. A lot of people appreciate it because it's a very, very not low-level understanding, but very basic understanding of the topic in a light tone. And that's what I like, is like, okay, this topic is a little bit dry. Let's make it almost fun for a topic that's a bit doom and gloom. Let's face it, it's everywhere and all this and 5G, and that's not my style. I'll try to make it a little bit lighter.
Yeah, I think that's what I really like. I took a stab in reaching out to, hey, I wonder if he'll come on the live stream, because I liked that you did it in a way that wasn't. I know a lot of people, they really focus on the conspiracy stuff on this kind of stuff, but I think you do it in a way that it's just kind of a welcoming, and I like the way that you present the data. So, and I think people in the chat room also felt the same.
Yeah, the chat definitely.
I'll take my. I know that some subscribers will probably, hey, you're not supposed to get back to making your Altoids tins, but they'll look at me on that. But that's what happens when people. I mean, again, this all started from looking into Faraday bags and then walking around with a meter and testing it, and then having people get really mad at me about it. And because of that, now we have Nick on. So I think it all worked out. So.
Awesome. Well, I really enjoyed it. And whenever you want to do this again or do a Q&A, I'd be happy to do so.
Yeah, that'd be a blast. So I'm going to sign us off for this live stream. Anyone that didn't happen to watch it live in action with Nick, I have links in the description box. I'm going to be adding more links there too, just because I know some people want to have sources and stuff. If you're interested in the course, you can sign up to the course in the link in the description box. If you're not interested, you could just go on to the next video. And we have links for the Nick's book and also for the YouTube channel. You can follow him on Instagram as well. So again, thank you, Nick, the EMF guy, for coming on this live stream. And it was a lot of fun. So
my pleasure.
Thanks everyone for watching and for supporting, and stay tuned for more videos.